Am I the a-hole for refusing full custody of my daughter after my husband asked for a divorce? I, 31F, have been together with my husband Alex, 33M, for 7 years, married for 4 years. Alex was always really excited about the prospect of children from the beginning of our relationship. I was always on the fence. I've seen how hard single moms have it. I promised myself I'd never be in that position. Plus, I work as a software engineer. I love my career, and I didn't want to give it up to be a mom. After Alex and I got married, those fears went away. We were very much in love. I felt safe with him. I told him my fears, and he said all the right things to make them vanish. So we tried for a baby and had our daughter Ramona 2 years after we got married. The pregnancy and first year with the baby were extremely hard on me. I had multiple health problems during and after the pregnancy that were life-threatening and altered my body permanently. I was disabled and nearly died once in the 6 months after I gave birth, and during this time my husband grew distant and became angry frequently when we'd speak. I spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital and was unable to work, so a lot of the baby care went to him during this time. It was all I could do to stay alive and get better, being separated from my daughter and husband so much. Eventually, I did get better enough to help more with the baby, but after I was discharged from the hospital he barely spoke to me. I want to clarify early that at no time did I ever neglect our daughter if I was able to care for her. I leaned on him a lot during this period, but I was also fighting for my health and my life so that I could continue to be there for her. If I had pushed myself too hard I would have made it worse, or be dead. We stayed in a state of limbo like this for a while. I was still in recovery, not back to 100% yet, but able to resume a somewhat normal life, and we shared more responsibility with Ramona. I tried talking to him many times over the next 6 months, but it was more of the same thing. He wouldn't speak to me, or he'd get angry in every little thing I did, insist I was making things up and blame me for somehow criticizing him. It was a constant deflection from whatever was bothering him. I got another job about 9 months after the pregnancy, and things seemed to improve for a while, or at least I thought. Not long after Ramona's first birthday, Alex served me with divorce papers. He said he'd fallen out of love with me a long time ago, and he was ready to start anew. I was in shock. Things had started to improve between us, but he explained that was because he decided to leave, and he felt less unhappy. It was a Saturday when this happened, so I made sure he was going to be home to care for Ramona for the weekend. Then I packed a bag and left until Sunday evening. I didn't say where I was going, and truthfully I didn't really go anywhere but drive. I drove 2 states over by the time I stopped. I needed to think. When I got back Sunday evening, he was pissed I'd left him alone with our daughter. He's always seemed really put off any time he had to care for her alone. This time was no exception. I sat him down and very carefully said, I will grant you a no-contest divorce, but I am not accepting full custody of Ramona. If he was only pissed before, he was explosive now, and everything he hated about me finally came out. That I was a horrible mother, that I wasn't strong enough to even be a mother, that I was too weak to carry a child and now I was abandoning her. I very calmly stated that I loved her dearly and would not abandon her, that I would pay child support and visit her every other weekend, and that I would be there for her in any way I could. But I had been very clear with him when we got married that I would never be a single mom. He became borderline violent at this, grabbing things like he was going to throw them and screaming that I was ruining his life on purpose. I wasn't going to stick around to be talked to like this, so I went and checked on Ramona, gave her a kiss, then grabbed my bag and left again. A couple of days later his mother texted me. He'd left Ramona with her for a few days, and she had some nasty things to say to me, that a mother should never leave her child, etc. I told her it wasn't her business and that her son doesn't get a free pass to restart his life because his wife nearly died when she was pregnant, and he became resentful of the responsibility. He's also blown up my phone asking me when I'm going to come back, so you can take your daughter, but I've only replied, I've already told you what's going to happen here. I love my daughter immensely and I will be a provider for her. I will always support her, but I won't be her primary parent. So, am I the a-hole? Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let Karen, neighbor, use my pool after she demanded I follow her pool rules? So, I, 34M, live in a suburban neighborhood with a decent-sized backyard and a pool. I've always been friendly with my neighbors, including Karen, mid-40s F, who moved in next door about a year ago. She seemed nice at first, but as time went on, she started to show her true colors. Over the summer, Karen started coming over with her kids, asking if they could use the pool. At first, I didn't mind because I was usually outside anyway, and the kids seemed to enjoy it. But soon, things got weird. Karen began showing up unannounced, sometimes even when I wasn't home, and I caught her using the pool without my permission. One day, I came home to find Karen and several of her friends having a full-on pool party in my backyard, complete with snacks, music, and pool floats. I confronted her, and she acted like it was no big deal, saying, "Oh, you weren't using it, so I figured it was fine." I told her politely but firmly that she needed to ask before coming over, and that I wasn't comfortable with her just assuming she could use the pool whenever. Karen seemed annoyed but agreed to follow the rules. Then, last week, she took things to a whole new level. Karen knocked on my door with a typed-up list of pool rules that she wanted me to follow. Her list included things like no swimming after 5 p.m. because her kids have a strict bedtime, no loud music when her family is outside, mandatory weekend access for her and her kids, but only for their exclusive use. I thought she was joking at first, but she was dead serious. I laughed and told her there was no way I was following any of her rules for my pool. Karen got angry and called me selfish, saying that I was ruining the neighborhood spirit and being unfair to the kids. Now, she's been spreading rumors to other neighbors that I'm a bad guy for not sharing the pool. Some of the neighbors have even said I should just let it go to avoid drama. But I feel like this is insane. It's my pool, and she's acting like she owns it. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let Karen and her kids use my pool after she demanded I follow her ridiculous rules? Quick update. Just to let everyone know, my backyard fence doesn't have a lock. I've taken your advice and purchased one from the store, and I'll be installing it tomorrow. For those suggesting I get a camera, I already have one, but it's not pointing directly at the pool, more to the fence entrance. Update. Hey everyone, an update on the situation. Thanks for all the advice. It really helped me see I wasn't overreacting. So, I went ahead and installed a keypad lock on my backyard fence. Figured it'd solve the problem without needing another awkward convo with Karen. Plus, you all were right about the liability stuff. I really don't want to deal with any potential fallout if someone gets hurt using my pool. Of course, so, Karen noticed the lock pretty much immediately. She was at my door, furious, saying I was locking out the neighborhood kids and treating her family like criminals. She went on about how I was being dramatic, and why couldn't I just let them use it like before. I told her straight up that I wanted some privacy and control over who was using my pool. After all, it's my backyard, not a community park. She rolled her eyes and said I was being selfish, etc., etc. Honestly, I feel a lot better with the lock on now. It's a bit awkward with Karen, but I'd rather that than have her acting like my backyard is a public pool. Thanks again for the support. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I walked my daughter down the aisle at her wedding when she didn't ask my husband/her stepdad? I have 2 children with my late ex Colin. My son is now 27 and my daughter is now 25. Colin and I broke up while I was pregnant with our daughter, but he remained a part of their lives until his passing just 6 months after our daughter was born. We hadn't worked out as partners, but we got along okay. Just very different people who couldn't make a relationship work and had kids very early in our relationship. Colin's family were in my children's lives from the start and remained a part of their lives long after he was gone. We never got along, but they adored my children and my children adored them in return. Their favorite thing was the week they spent with his family each summer. When my daughter was 7 and my son was 9, I met my husband. We married after 2.5 years of dating, and we had already lived together for a year. My husband has no children of his own. We had none together. He was a very loving stepdad to my kids. My kids and him have a nice relationship, but neither of them called him dad, and neither wanted to be adopted by him, which did come up a year into our marriage. He asked. I wanted to find out what the children wanted and spoke to them. They said no. This was not something they later asked for or wanted. My daughter is getting married next year, and she asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. I immediately said yes and was so moved by the fact she felt I was the best and only person for the job. She even told me how much it meant to her that I never erased her dad when we weren't even together when he passed. She said I always put them first and I had been the best mom. I cried so hard. She asked her brother to dance with her in honor of their dad. My husband was upset he wasn't asked to walk her alongside me, and he was hurt that I accepted without suggesting we should both do it. I explained that my daughter had her reasons to ask me. Then he mentioned the dance in honor of her dad and how she wasn't even doing that with him. I told him I was sorry he was feeling so hurt. He told me he felt like all the little things she asked him to do were just a way to keep the peace instead of her truly wanting him to have a role in her wedding. I'm still not sure what these things were, and I did ask, but he wasn't happy about them. He told me I should take a stand and insist he be included, or I don't walk her down the aisle. I told him I wasn't willing to let my daughter down or myself. I told him it was very special to me and my daughter. He told me I'm not honoring our vows if I did this. Would I be the a-hole if I walked her down the aisle?